Hello, I am Xochiquetzal Matlapantli, and I wanted to talk today about the duality, the concept in Mesoamerican culture. So just a little bit about myself beforehand. I am Mexican American. I live in Mexico. I'm mixed race, and I'm a dancer. I do Aztec dance, and I'm also a painter. My work is devoted to exploring pre-Hispanic and Mesoamerican spirituality as a living culture. So this particular painting I made about 5 or 6 years ago, and I made it to explore the concept of duality in Mesoamerican thought. And in this particular case, I decided to use Xochipilli and Xochiquetzal as the examples of how to explore this idea. So in Mesoamerica, like one should think about dualities as being two parts of one single truth as opposed to two opposites. So it's like in Western culture, we might think of, say, the sun and the moon as opposites, or light and dark as opposites. Life and death are opposites, but they're not opposites. They're actually one single thing. In the case of light and dark, for example, you cannot have a shadow unless you have light. And the opposite is true. It's like both of these ideas are dependent upon each other. So it's like life and death are the same. It's like without death to fertilize and provide its nutrients to life, there is no life. Every year, the seasons change. Summer becomes winter. The fields die. The corn has to die to provide the seed to provide a new corn plant. So that's like the general principle of the duality. So in this particular case, I made a painting of, his name means the Prince of Flowers. There's an unstable connection. His name means the Prince of Flowers, and he is the Lord of art, song, dance, and music, and the sun in the morning. And then this is Xochiquetzal, who is the plume blossom, the precious flower. She is the goddess of love and the feminine arts of weaving and embroidery, and she's one of the goddesses of sexuality. So these two are brother and sister, husband and wife, and the same person at the same time. They represent a male and female opposite of one single truth. So to express this idea of the duality, I painted them with a single backbone, which they share, and with a single sandal, which they're both wearing in the center, to show that they aren't two different people; they're one single person. So because Xochipilli is male and female at the same time and contains within himself the Xochiquetzal, his sister. He's also the god of two-spirit people. So people who are in the pre-Hispanic world, that would have been like, well, the concept trans is a contemporary concept, but something similar existed, which would have been Siwa Yolotl, which means heart of a woman, or Tlaca Yolotl, which means heart of a man. And those are people who would have taken on the clothing and social position of someone under. In their life, except that there was no concept really of a trans person where like a trans woman is just a woman. Like really, like it would have been like a third gender, like another possible way of being in the world. So Xochipilli is the lord of two-spirit people, of Siwa Yolotl and Tlaca Yolotl people. So in flowers. So he is the god of hallucinogenic plants, and she is a goddess of flowers, of beautiful flowers. So in the painting, he's standing on this branch, a red branch right here, and inside of it there are glyphs for different kinds of hallucinogenic plants that grow in Mexico. Growing up his leg are morning glory vines, which are hallucinogens, and then up here is a peyote, which is the cactus, which is also hallucinogen. So when you take a hallucinogenic plant, he is incarnate in that plant, and he's guiding you to the spirit world and on the journey that you're going to take to learn whatever truths and mysteries will be revealed to you there. So she is the goddess of flowers. So in her case, there are flowers that are native to Mexico growing up her, and the blue branch is filled with glyphs of different kinds of flowers, which are also native to Mexico. So she has flowers around her arm, There's flowers in her hair. Like she's carrying this glyph for flowers. So all of those are flowers that are decorating her body. So they're both gods of art, and they're singing as a symbol of that. So this glyph right here represents joy or something profound. It means something profound. I'm sorry, it doesn't mean joy. And this is repeated over here. And the colors red and black as a couplet, as two joined words, symbolize something profound as well, because books were written in red and black ink. So he's singing in red, which is a color associated with masculinity, and she's singing in black, which is a color associated with femininity. This is a speech scroll emerging from their mouth, which is a standard symbol in Mesoamerican art. He's singing with they have the same glyphs. They're singing with flowers and with teeth, because what they sing is profound and beautiful. Flowers are a symbol of poetry and song, and the teeth because what they sing is true and hurts. So they're both carrying flowers right here, which is a symbol of art, creativity, sexuality, and the evanescence of life, that everything must come to an end. And because she's a goddess of love, he's a god of art and dance, they're both associated with sex. And therefore, a coral snake, which is a symbol of sex, emerges from his loincloth and from her skirt as a sign of their relationship to sexuality. So they are standing on this twisting branch, which I had referred to earlier. So the twisting branch is called Tamuanchan, which is the tree that stands in the 13th heaven at the center of the cosmos. This tree preceded all existence. And at the beginning of time, this tree, which is distinguished by having two trunks, which represent the male and female energies, which characterize the cosmos, was placed in a garden. And Xochiquetzal was placed as the queen of Tamuanchan, where this tree grew. And she, Ometeo, who is the sort of like so Ometeo represents like everything that exists. He's kind of like, it's hard to describe. It's like Ometeo is like there's like a supreme deity, but without being like God. He's like everything that is a manifestation of Ometeo. Everything that exists is an element of them. So Ometeo created this garden, placed Xochiquetzal there, and told her not to pick the flowers that grew from the tree. But the flowers were spectacularly beautiful and had an amazing aroma, and she desired them above all things. And Xochiquetzal, the old coyote, the trickster god, convinced her to pick the flowers. And when she did that, Ometeo descended and cast her from the garden, and all of the gathered Teteo. And as they plummeted from the 12th and 13th heavens where they were located, matter crystallized in their immaterial forms, and all being came into existence. So creation and the world, cosmos, everything that we inhabit, is born of the act of desire and love, which Xochiquetzal bore here. So blue, or black, is associated with femininity, and red is associated with masculinity. So these are the two twirling branches of the tree of Tamuanchan, the twirling trunks that they're standing upon, which is a symbol of Xochiquetzal, and therefore of him as well. So the swirling branches, the joined spinal column, and the joined sandal are all symbols of the way that Xochiquetzal and Xochipilli become manifestations of Ometeo, dual lord, the principle of duality, which generates the cosmos. So on either side are standing a man and a woman. So the man has a red clothing that one wears. The connection was unstable. So in many contemporary Calpulis, the clothing one wears during a ceremony is white, and one traditionally wears a red headband and a red belt. And so I painted these two figures to represent not pre-Hispanic people, but contemporary people, modern dancers and querents, religious people who are worshiping before the mysteries of the duality in the person of Xochiquetzal and Xochipilli. So they're modern danzantes and modern practitioners of the Mexicayo religion and faith. So around the edge are 4 butterflies, right here. So the butterfly is a symbol of the soul, of the heart soul reincarnated. The butterfly dies and is reborn. And, or rather, the butterfly makes a chrysalis and emerges from it transformed. And similar to what happens to us as human beings, it's like for most people, when you die, you descend to the underworld. Your teolia, the heart, the soul that's in your heart, descends to the underworld, and after 4 years, it ceases to exist. But some people have a teoyolotl, a divine heart, and you achieve this through sacrifice. So, so for example, the classic example would be a warrior who dies in the battlefield defending his people in the honor of the gods, and he would immediately attain a teoyolotl and go to Tonatiuhichan, the heaven of the sun, in the form of a butterfly or a precious bird, and he would live there eternally. However, you can achieve that in other ways. So it's like, I think in a contemporary context, it's like if you imagine a healthcare worker who is willing to put their life on the line for the sake of their patients, or somebody who devotes their life towards the fight for, on behalf of global warming, or a social worker, that kind of thing. It's like you can attain a teoyolotl through acts of sacrifice that you do throughout your life, and that's what these butterflies represent, because these two figures are in Tamawanchan in the 13th heaven, which is one of the places where you go as a deified heart. So, and then finally, behind them are these glyphs. So there's a serpent here, and this is a water strider here. So this glyph in particular, I chose to paint it, even though, so this glyph right here is called by a lot of people Hunab-ku, I believe, and that's not really a thing. It's like a modern New Age invention. However, it's become so that they think it's real. So it's like this glyph appears in the Codex Magliabeciano, which is a post-colonial codex, as a design on a cape. So it is a pre-Hispanic image. What it's not is what people tend to think it is, which is this idea of, it's like the Mayan yin yang symbol. That's what people tend to describe it a lot as, and it's not. However, because it has become a part of living culture and it's something that people believe in and people treat it that way. In fact, I don't think that thinking of it in those terms is that wrong. The idea of yin yang bothers me a little bit because it's not native to Mexico. It's not part of our tradition. It comes from outside. But the fundamental concept is actually the same. It's like the idea of the yin yang symbol and the idea of this kind of symbol, or this one right here, represents this duality of the male and female principles of the cosmos being indistinct. I don't really want to be slavishly devoted to what was actually practiced in the pre-Hispanic era, in part because we can never really know. They're gone. The teachers were killed for the most part, and what has survived has survived in a very different form from what was practiced in the world before. And so in my work, I'm very interested in taking everything that we know about the pre-Hispanic world. I take what scholars write. Most of my work is based on scholarly research. I have lived with various indigenous tribes. My grandmother was Wida, and I spent some time living with the Wida tribe as well. And also I do danza. So I'm interested in my work reflecting living practices. And so I include this particular symbol here as a kind of image of the duality, because that's the way contemporary people in Mexico and Latin America take it, and I wanted to give it the weight that it currently possesses within this image. So here I placed it behind the man as a sort of a yin yang symbol, as a symbol of the duality, focused on the idea of masculinity. And here is this symbol, which represents a serpent, also as a duality symbol, and is placed behind the woman as a symbol which references her femininity. And in the center, in the back, which is also the same glyph, which is in the center of each butterfly, is this round symbol. This one comes from Teotihuacan. It's impossible to know what it meant within the context of Teotihuacan, but it's this round, relatively neutral image, and I decided to use it as this sort of image of the duality and as a symbol of Xochipilli and Xochiquetzal as the duality. So it's within each of the butterflies, and it's also the circle which is behind them. Furthermore, this particular glyph was taken by Xochipilli as its symbol. So I wanted this image to reference the living belief practice as it is practiced by the people with whom I celebrate. So I think that's about it. I just wanted to share this particular painting. I hope you you enjoyed that, and I will be back within a week. Thank you very much. Goodbye.